Hello, fellow humans. I am the bear. Good evening, fellow humans. Um, I am the bear in the bright pink hoodie. I've been seen doing quite a lot of crazy things in my shorts, welding, dancing around doing crazy stuff, offering up motivational positivity on a somewhat regular basis. Something that I like to do, try and perk people up. Um, yeah, today I kind of want to do this. I don't really have anything planned about what I want to say. I just kind of want to, what's the term, freeform this. Now, it's something that I know a lot of people go through. I understand that a lot of people do go through this, and it really is a situation of life being tough. Now, I have done a small video before now, talking about grief and all that kind of stuff. But this is really more of a situational kind of thing. Okay, so to put it into perspective, there are points where life gets difficult. It really does. And there are points where we feel like there is nothing that we can do. There is nothing, we feel like we are stuck and we're lost. And it happens. It does. It happens to all of us at different points in our lives. But the thing that I kind of want to recommend, and I know that it seems difficult and everybody seems to say it, but these are the points where we need to kind of pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and admit that, yeah, life is tough, life is tricky. Whether it be the actions that we have taken, the inactions that we have, committed, things that we haven't done that we should have done. Or whether it be something that's completely out of our control. Now, this experience that I'm going through that is warranting this is to do with my own inactions. And it's something that I regret deeply. But life getting tough, there are things that we can do about it. There are things that we can focus on. And it's very easy to put our heads down and, try and hide away from things, to try and avoid things. But you can't. You can't do that because that just makes it worse. And the hardest part of it all is admitting that we need to keep going. We need to, keep fighting, even if it seems small and insignificant, even if it feels like it's not going to do anything. We have to keep fighting and we have to keep trying for it. And I'm not talking about big, grand things, I'm talking about just day to day life. Things are difficult. Things all over the world are difficult. Life is difficult. But we've got to get up. We've got to keep fighting. We've got to keep doing what we're doing. Because it's not failure until you stop. The moment you stop and the moment you give in, that's when it becomes failure. And that's the point that you can never get to. Because no matter how difficult it feels, no matter how tough it is to carry on, you've got to find hope. You've got to find something. And you have to. And I mean, trying to carry on when everything feels like it's at its darkest is one of the hardest things to do. But you really do have to. You have to work in some way to make it reasonable. You have to make it worthwhile. And that's the key. You really do have to do that. Because if you don't, there's nobody else that's going to be there to pick you up. You know, we may have friends and stuff that we rely on, and we may have people that can help us, but nobody can pick us up. If we fall in our own mind, there's nobody there to pick us up at that point. So this really is a reminder that no matter how dark it gets, no matter how lost and hopeless you might feel, there's always more. There's always something that can be done. So do it. It really comes down to just finding that strength. And of course, talking to people helps. You know, if you've got issues going on and you're struggling with something one way or another, talking to someone really does help. Sorry about this, I do have an itchy eyeball. Talking is a good way to go. Even if it's, you know, even if it feels unproductive, if it feels like you're just venting and ranting, sometimes what we need is to hear the words that are inside our head, because while it's all racing around up here, it's difficult to understand it. But when you say things, when you string these sentences together, it does add a layer of sense to it, and you really do need to sometimes listen to that, to hear that rationality coming out of you. And most of the time it really is just good to explain it, because then you don't feel you're not so alone with it, even if people aren't able to help. You know, directly, maybe there's some little bit of advice or wisdom, or, you know, something that they can, pardon me, something that they can offer you in response to your issues. But ultimately, the trick is just don't give up. At the end of the day, no matter how hard life seems, giving up is, and this isn't for every circumstance. I'm going to counteract that point right off the bat. It's not for every circumstance. There are definitely exceptions to the rule of don't give up. In general, you know, day-to-day life, things like that, giving up, no. You know, even if it seems like an excessive circumstance, even if it seems like it's you know, the end of the world, 99% of the time it's not. It's one of those situations where you just can't see around the problem, because it is, you know, it will be a large one. But there are ways to deal with it, and you have to kind of pull yourself back a little bit, say, right, what can I do in the meantime? What can I do in the short term? What is the ultimate objective? What do I need to do to fix this? What is my plan? And that's what you need to look at. And it's the same with everything. It's the same with everything, difficulty-wise, struggle-wise. If you focus on the big picture, if you spend all of your time looking at the main issue, the main problem, you're only going to dwell on that. But it's the same with everything, and I'm going to be a complete nerd here, and I'm going to say, look at it like a video game. In the respect of, okay, let's use this analogy. You're going up against a boss fight, okay? Your main instinct is to look at the boss, and if it's a small boss, fine, you know, fairly easy, low level, whatever, get through it. If it's a huge raid boss, you're going to be looking at it like, yeah, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. But then you get to thinking, well, what would I do to defeat this boss? What would I do to get around this? How do I solve this? And then, you start looking at, right, what kind of weapons do I need to defeat this thing? How do I go about attacking it personally, physically? Then you kind of look at strategies. You look at, okay, well, I know what I need to do, but how do I act? What kind of rotations do I need to learn? What kind of move patterns do I need to learn? And you're breaking down that mountain into smaller pieces, and you're kind of looking at it like a list of things to do. And that's the same with problems in life. You look at what the big problem is, and then you work it down from there, and you say, okay, well, this is what my problem is. This is how I can, I identify what I need to do to fix it, and this is how I can act. This is what kind of plan I can put into place. And it really is, it can be a mental thing. It can be a physical thing of doing this, writing down what you need to do. Most of the time people do it with bills and stuff. They say, okay, not got the money to do this, whatever. And you say, right, these are the bills that I need to cover. That's the boss. I can work this, or I can knock this off and, get rid of a subscription to something or whatever. And you can drop down the list and you can say, okay, this is how I can go about solving the problem. This is what I can do to make it work. And that's the kind of situation that you need to kind of bring your mind into. And in terms of like a scientific name for it, it's adaptive versus maladaptive. And to break that down, adaptive is finding ways to cope or deal with a situation that are productive. So, as I said, writing a list, figuring out what you need to do, you're adapting to the situation, and you are then working through it productively. Whereas maladaptive is, I'm going to hide. It works in the short term because you feel a little bit comfier, but the problem is still there. It's still looming right over you. So adaptive, maladaptive. And that does come into play with mental health and a bunch of other things as well, but not the topic of today. So, yeah. Struggle is going to be a very real part of life. I would say for 90% of people on Earth, at the very least. Struggle is an inevitability, but the way that we deal with it will change us. It does. The way that we deal with it, the way that we overcome it, it strengthens us. In a sense of the more adversity we can overcome, the better equipped we are to deal with it in the future. And I think a lot of people forget that. A lot of people forget that if somebody is watching this, I'm willing to bet there is one instance in your life where you have overcome something that has then given you the clarity and the understanding, even if it's in a small way, to deal with another problem. It can be something at work, it can be anything, but I'm willing to bet there is something that you have overcome that has then given you the equipment and the understanding that you need to deal with something bigger, to deal with something else further along the line. And that's how it works. But you've got to get over the whole, I don't want to do this because it feels hopeless, it feels worthless. It's too big for me. I can't deal with this. You've got to get over it. And I'm in the exact same spot right here, right now. So I'm not just, spouting. I am in that situation. But for a couple of minutes, just to kind of give myself some clarity and just kind of to focus myself up a bit, I thought I'd make this video. Because that's just the way my brain works. But yeah, struggling with things it's a commonplace. It really is. But it's doable. It really is. And you've got to have faith in yourself. You've got to have some confidence in yourself. As I've said before, the only person that ultimately can have your back is you. And it's always the case. It's always other people can be there. They can be around you. They can be, supporting you. But if you're running a marathon, they're not running alongside you for the majority. You might get one crazy person that's like, okay, let's do this thing. And they'll run alongside you, in which case, fair enough. But normally they're at the sidelines. And yeah, they're cheering you on and they're offering you that moral support, but they are not moving your feet, you are. They are not, screaming at you in your head. That's you. You're the one that is pushing yourself. So, ultimately, having your own back is key. And it needs to happen. It needs to be, you may not have much self-esteem or much self-confidence, but at the same time, if you look at things that you've overcome, if you look at things that you've done, and yeah, there may be the chance that objectively or subjectively, objectively, whichever one is accurate for this situation, you may not feel that you have any good attributes, but that is purely you. Other people will look at you and say, you're good at this, you can do this. You have to have your own back. Like, if you're going to go through any form of struggle, you have to pick yourself up. You have to be the one that's pushing you the hardest. And if you can manage that in some small way, if you can push yourself even a little bit, find support in other people, fair enough, do that. Get help from other people. But the situation that you're in, you're the only one that's in it. Like, your situation is yours, and you've got to deal with it. Because if not, there's no way that it's going to change. And I don't know who needs to hear this rambling of mine, but it really does need to happen. You really do need to find that level of strength and trust in yourself to be able to do things. And yeah, there are situations that, again, in our control, out of our control. Some things can be out of our control because of things that were in our control, and it's a constant loop. Things we do, or things that we don't do, remove control of things later down the line, or affect the outcome of things later down the line, and it's annoyingly enough, it always seems to be the small stuff. It always seems to be the stuff that is easiest to deal with. But that's life. You learn. Every failure is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to gain some insight, some level of understanding of where we went wrong, what we can do better, and the understanding of what mistakes not to make. And it really does come down to that. You really do pick it up. And again, for lack of a better example, the ultimate one is video games. People spend hours playing video games. People spend hours, just any activity, any hobby like that, baking, sewing. You make a mistake and you look at it and you think, okay, what did I do? Or what did I not do? What was wrong with that? And you look at it and you retrace your steps and boom, you found it. You found what the problem was. You're not going to do that again, are you? You're not going to look at the situation the next time around and be like, I'm going to do that again. It doesn't work. So, yeah. Ultimately, the moral of this video is, or the morals of this video. One, any situation that you're facing, any situation, doesn't matter what it is, step back, break it down, and have a look at the smaller pieces of the big picture. Think of it like a puzzle. You're not looking at the ultimate big picture, you're looking at each individual piece and you're saying, okay, how can I make these fit together? And the second moral is big yourself up. You know, whether you have self-confidence issues or not, big yourself up. Be your own best friend. You have to be. Everything in life, if you do something good, reward yourself. If you do something well, reward yourself. If you do something less well, look at it, but don't punish yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Look at it and be like, okay, I can grow from this. But don't beat yourself up. Don't instantly make yourself the villain. Don't be your own enemy in this situation. Look at it like that. You can grow from it, so grow. Don't shrink away. Don't, bury yourself underneath it. Move with it. Grow with it. And that ultimately is the way to move forward. So, with that in mind, I'm going to end my rambling here. I promise. Maybe. No. But yeah. Be good. Pick yourself up. Be awesome. And take care of yourself. Bye-bye.